Good morning, everyone. Now, why is this not working?
Good morning. Because you're running it.
No, because I need to update it.
Are we?
Okay, that's now should be working. So if I go boom, boom. Let it load for a second. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Oh, now I've got to authorize
What's
it.
to that?
I'm just trying to get this chat thing to work. I can't test it until I'm actually live, so... Anyway, whilst it does its thing, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another
So people can
episode.
see
Yeah, everyone can hear us.
it. Good.
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yep. Good morning.
How are we all?
Doing well. Hey, for anybody who wants to know, this locomotive that running is Shannon's T1. What's
second
it
one.
up? You tell them about it, Shannon. I'm just running it.
I'm not going to tell them that. I'm not right now.
It's nice. It's brass imports.
Not a Brass Imports, it's a
come
Broadway
on.
Limited.
Whatever.
Whatever. There we go. That's done. That's fixed. Okay, what a very
So what are we
special
talking
this
about
morning.
today, Shannon?
Scenery.
Okay. Yeah, so today, as you guys chose last week, we are talking about scenery today. Everything all right over there? If you're after the wipes are on the table. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about scenery. We have Ali, Steve, and Claude, like always. I'm not wearing my shirt at the moment because it's in the wash. As Steve said, he's got one of my locos that's going to be en route to me soon,
Uh-oh.
running on the layout. So he's wearing it in for me.
No, it's not.
Oh, yes, it will.
No, it's going to stay here. No, it's going to
Um,
stay here. It runs so nice.
yeah. Also, if you
You
guys
also have an
notice...
update on the boxcar, don't you, Shannon?
No, there's no real update apart from that. It's still at one's still at Fred's and one's still at Ron Marsh's. So I know both those guys have been pretty tied up with other things, so it's understandable. But no, what I was trying to say just then is if everyone notices over on Ali's over that way, you'll see a timer. If anyone sees Heath from Humanity Junction, can you just make sure you point that timer out to him? Look up a bit, Ali. Look in that direction.
It's in the corner, isn't it?
No, other corner. Up, 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 up.
That corner.
Yeah, right there.
That
No,
It would go
pillow side.
that corner.
Pillow side.
that way.
That way.
Yeah, right there. You're pointing at it.
Up there.
That corner.
Yes.
That door.
So
No.
yeah. So in saying that, if anyone sees me, make sure you point that out to him. Make sure he sees it. It's kind of an inside joke between a few of us that we're just rubbing it right into not Steve's face, Heath's face. So yeah, just make sure. But otherwise, yeah, we're talking about scenery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my face out because I've got a lot of photos to show off, and I'll let everyone else talk. So I'll go pop out. I'll go share, and I'm going to share. This thing.
Okay.
Hang on.
No, you're not.
Hang on.
We should say good morning to everybody in chat. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
we've got 23 people
Yeah.
watching right now.
Yeah, well, I'm preoccupied. Someone help.
I said good morning to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Boy, the sound sure changed all of a sudden.
What changed?
Oh, all of a sudden Shannon got louder on my end.
Oh, what? How did that happen?
I thought he was always
Alright. So,
Oh, poor little bud.
You got real loud.
how did I get real loud? I haven't done anything.
No, it's on your end, Steve.
Hang on, I'm going to mute my mic because I've got baby crying over here.
We're off to a great start.
I think what Shannon's putting, what Shannon's putting up there is the newest backdrop that I just ordered. It should be getting to me probably this next week. Same place I got the last one that I did, It's from Lark Productions up in New York. They're really nice backdrops. And I'm doing kind of a fall look. He keeps messing with it.
It's pixelating, that's why.
Yeah. But they're pictures on their website. They give you, that's a 13-foot long by 24-inch high backdrop. That's why the picture looks like it does on there, because to get it on their site, they have to shrink it down. They give you a chance to look at it, what it's going to look like close up. But overall, that's what it looks like, and you kind of get the idea. But because I'm doing fall in the mountains with the aspens turning and that sort of thing, they've got a section that has several backdrops with that sort of stuff in it. So I'll be getting some others as I go around the layout. But that's the next big one that I'm doing. Anyway, and it'll go behind a trestle. So the biggest trestle on the layout is about 4.5 feet long, and that will be behind that. It'll be, a pretty big thing when you see it. Right now, if you've seen my updates, I've shown where it goes, but unless you can visualize what it would look like behind the trestle, it's kind of hard to tell. But then I get to blend the scenery into that. Which has been a lot easier than I thought it would be. I was really apprehensive on the layout because I've done track laying and wiring and stuff like that before. That didn't bother me, but doing scenery is what was really kind of scaring me on this whole thing. And it turns out,
Claude, Steve Anderson wants to know the company again.
Lark, L-A-R-C. Productions or products? I can't remember. Let me look here right quick and I can tell you for sure. Lark Products, L-A-R-C Products. Let's say they're up in, I think he's up in New York, somewhere in New York State. But they're fantastic. The ones I get are the removable, where you can take them back off the wall. They make some that are sticky back, peel and stick. The ones I get don't have any adhesive on them. I put them up with two-way tape so I can take them off and reposition them or move them if I want to. And it's on a little heavier vinyl. I don't know if it's vinyl or if it almost feels like a PVC sheet is what it feels like. But it's nice and heavy, and they're actually photographs. They're not painted, they're actual photographs, and they do look really well. And it makes a huge difference on the layout. Along with the trees, when you start putting trees, as Steve can tell you, trees really change it. But so do the backdrops, don't they, Steve?
Oh, absolutely, especially yours. Well, you also found out that your layout eats trees really quickly.
Oh yeah, you can't make enough trees. If you're doing a broad expanse, unless you're doing prairie or water, you can't make enough trees. So, yeah, there's kind of an idea of what I'll be doing, something similar to that, with that backdrop in the background.
Well, I'll tell you what, the one that you sent me sure changed it. I mean, instantly.
Yeah, it gives your layout some depth. It doesn't look like it's sitting on a table any longer. It gives more depth to the scene, and it makes the stuff up front stand out that much better, I think. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Is to figure out what you want in an overall scene, or the overall layout, depending on the size of your layout, and start with a backdrop if you can. Even on a portable layout, you can always add a backdrop. If you look in some of the Model Railroader magazine track plans, you'll see where they put a divide down the center, just a sheet of hardboard down the center, and they'll put a backdrop on both sides. You know, so you've got two separate scenes on a very small layout, and it just makes it look like it's so much more than what it is if it's just running in a circle. So you get a scene break, and then
well, it almost
you get
makes
two
it
different
too
scenes
loud.
on either side of it.
What's the thing you learned most about putting backdrops on your scenery, Claude?
Do them first. If you know what you're going to do for sure, yeah, get your backdrops up or paint or whatever you're going to do in the background. Try to get that done first, because trying to put it in around scenery or just around other structure that you've put up there, not even buildings or anything, but just the basic structure of the base of your layout, can be kind of hard to do. I had already put the upper deck on where I put my first backdrop, and the only reason I was able to get it in there is because it was only 50 inches long. So I was able to sneak it in there, but if I'd have been thinking properly, I'd have put that up before I built the second deck, and it would have been much easier. So the one I'm going to put in next is actually up on the second deck, and then comes around, and it'll be, it's kind of hard to explain. Part of it's going to be cut off, but it will come around. It'll be full 13 feet long before it has a seam break of any kind, a major seam break in the backdrop. And then I'll put another backdrop on the other side of that. I have several backdrops I have to put up because I've got a lot of linear feet as far as wall space that I'm doing. So I'm doing it a little bit at a time, and do it as I can afford it. And because they're not cheap. I mean, the one I'm buying is $10 a square foot plus shipping. He's got some that are cheaper than that. If you want the peel and stick, or the one that you put your own adhesive on, they're a little bit cheaper. They're like, one's $9 a square foot, one's $8 a square foot. So they're not super cheap, but they're a lot easier than trying to paint yourself if you can't paint that sort of thing. And I didn't want to ask my aunt, or not my aunt, my sister-in-law or my nephew to paint it. They're both great artists, but you know, they've got other things to do besides paint backdrops for me. So I went ahead and opted to buy mine. But it's, yeah, you get great service from them, and you know, I don't get any break for telling you about them. I just think they've got a good product. But that's the first place I would start thinking about with your scenery before you start doing too much other stuff. Because if you do decide you want a backdrop, even if it's just a hardboard that's painted blue, do that before you start putting stuff in front of it, because otherwise you're going to have a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up tearing stuff up trying to get it in. Anybody? Can I add
What are you doing,
Is somebody reading chat? So we got some questions.
I am reading chat, Claude. There's not much in the way.
Yeah, I am too. Now everybody's saying hi to everybody.
Yeah, just to give some background to some of these photos. There are a bunch of photos that I've had on my phone for God knows how long. I've just made a small selection of what I've got that I thought had really good scenic input in a lot of them. So little things where, like, there's the background in this photo here. You can see some hills in the background. This is a little class, what we used to call class 24 layouts. It's a still S scale, but it's fitted into 24 square feet. That's what they meant by class 24. And the idea was to try and fit a lot of detail into a small space, so there was no excuse for people saying, "Oh, I haven't got the space for a layout," that sort of thing. So this is an S-scale class 24 layout called, I forgot the name of it now. It's owned by my local club, and so there's a couple of photos here from that. This is from Richard Stallard's Marble Up Valley Railway, and he hand lays his track as well. So again, it's S-scale, but you can see there that the sleepers, he's hand laid himself and nailed into place and weathered. And a lot of the structures he's built are scratch built as well.
Yeah, that would be the next thing I would, if I was going to tell somebody the steps they need to take, is figure out, for the most part, you're never going to know exactly what everything you want on there as far as structures go. But if you're trying to get some idea of how much room you need, that sort of thing, figure out what kind of structures you want on your layout. I'd do that even if I'd have been thinking, I'd have done that first instead of doing the track plan first. I did track plan, and of course I'm not staying strictly to any kind of track plan that I drew. It was mainly just an idea, but then I started laying track before I had much idea of where I wanted structures. So now I'm going back and I'm having to fit stuff in. I've had to move some track here and there. So I would do that, especially your major structures. If nothing else, cut out a piece of cardboard or poster board or something that is the footprint of the buildings that you want to do. Lay them out there and then start planning your track, your layout, because if you don't, you're going to find out you don't have room for some of that stuff that you may really, really want to put on your layout.
I'm just looking through the chat. There's a question that just popped up from Sean McGee. What is your preferred base for mountains or hills?
For me, my preferred base is a wood or styrofoam, dense styrofoam structure, skeleton structure with the cardboard lattice and plaster. It works great, especially for a big area like I did with the mountain. In smaller areas, you don't have to get that big. You can stack styrofoam. I don't use any white styrofoam because it's just too messy. But I have used some of the pink styrofoam. I've got some of that up on the very top of the mountain. All of that, probably the top 16 inches is styrofoam with plaster laid over it. So I do like the plaster though. I know a lot of people don't like that sort of thing. I think that's too messy, and it is messy when you put it on. But once you get it up there and it's dry, and man, it's there. It's pretty solid. It's easy to put stuff in, like trees and that sort of thing. Just take a drill a hole in where you want a tree, and plant your tree. So I like the plaster and the cardboard deal. That kind of old school method. There's all kinds of ways of doing it.
I like the foam. I like the foam because you didn't have to drill.
Yeah.
So I just said I like the foam for trees because you don't have to drill a hole. You just
you use the white foam, right, Steve?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fred I did.
Yeah, I was gonna say I use the high density insulation foam, which is really good because some of the advantages with that is it can take up a lot of weight, but also because of its properties and being designed as insulation foam, it's really good for as a fireproof as well. So if any electrical issues do happen on the layout that may cause a fire, it's not like your whole layout's going to go up in flames. really easy.
Yeah,
to
I
find
agree
as well.
with the later sentiment there that foam is a great starting point because you can layer it up in layers, and then as each layer comes in, then you can start shaping and molding, and then you throw on, of course, your sculptor mold or plaster or whatever your preferred options may be. But sometimes you won't even need the plaster cloth. Like you might see in some of these later photos coming up from the Novocastrian layouts, some of the bare foam sections, what we did was instead of putting plaster cloth over the top, we just put straight plaster straight onto it. And because it had that sort of rough, bubbly shape that, you know, the white styrofoam normally gives, it already had the sort of texture that we wanted for that particular scene. So it just, yeah, it looked fantastic once done. And of course it sealed it, so there was no, you know, little bits of foam everywhere, and yeah, it was really great.
Well, and one thing you can do too,
Well,
if
yeah,
you have an idea for something and you don't know if it's going to work out, do a little test board. You know, just take a 6 by 6 inch piece of cardboard and put, like she did, put the styrofoam on there, make it 2 or 3 levels, put your plaster on there, see how it looks, see if that's what you want to do. It's real easy to do something small like that, and you'll have an idea of what you want to do on the main part, especially if you have a big area like I did. Now I just jumped right in because I knew what I wanted. But I thought I was going to, after I got the plaster on there, I thought I was going to have to go back and fill in some places and stuff. But once I got it painted, there was very little of that I did. Now I did put some other ground cover over the plaster even after I painted it, but I didn't change everything I thought I was going to change. So, you know,
Humanity
trying it out first is a good idea, especially if you've never done it before. Get a little piece and try it out, see how it works.
Humanity Junction's got a good question here about static grass. You know, what's your preferred static grass, and do you prefer a home-built applicator, or do you go and buy one?
I bought one. I bought a cheap one. I may regret it because I haven't used it yet, but I've heard some iffy things about them. So, but I've got some static grass, but I've kind of been holding off because I'm in the mountain part, and there's not a lot of areas where I would use the static grass there. Now, when I get up on the upper level and stuff, where I would have more mountain meadow kind of thing, I'll use more of that. Some down on the bottom part of my layout. But in the flatter areas, yeah, I'll probably try some of the static grass.
Yeah, I was going to say, Claude, if you want, a good way to practice with the static grass.
Well, I made an applicator. I made.
Yeah, Claude, if you want, with the static grass applicator, I'd suggest first trying to make some grass tufts. You know, just so you can put them on the mountain. It's quite easy to do, but I'm going to go through that with you. But in saying that, in regards to me having a static grass applicator, I made one, and mine cost about, I think I ended up spending $12. So, and it works great. Like, you know, shocked myself, my son shocked himself. You know, you're going to shock yourself regardless.
Yeah.
You know, but otherwise, you know, the way it works great. But yeah, just first.
No, I made one too for $8. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of practice before you start applying it, because.
Well, and I will. You know, I just haven't gotten around to doing it because I've got so many other things I'm doing. That's just one more thing I'd have to pull out and have all the parts there ready, you know. And so I'm trying to keep myself from going in too many directions at the same time, because right now the layout's a mess with all the scenery stuff I've got sitting on it. And I just relocated some track to be able to run the boxcar when it gets to me. You know, gets to me, I'll be able to run it, but I've got to get all that junk off the table. And so if I pull the static grass applicator out and the static grass out and all the stuff that goes with that, that's just that much more stuff laying up on the table that's going to be in my way. So I haven't pulled it out yet, but I will be doing, some practice stuff on it.
Yeah.
You're practicing with that because I've never done that before.
Yeah. Now I'm just reading Heath's comments. He's saying I shocked myself. So, Heath, you do know the way they work is they actually hold a charge. So until you discharge it, even when you do turn it off, it will still shock you.
Yeah. I've heard the thing to do
It'll shock the hell out of you too.
Is to have something, some kind of ground that you can ground it to after you shut it off.
Oh yeah, well usually what I do is I just put positive to negative, and you just hear the quick zap, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's see. So everyone's giving Heath some crap.
Well, Sean McGee says he's heard of using N-scale buildings in the background of HO layouts to create more depth. Z-scale on N-scale. What are your thoughts? Well, yeah. I think it's a great idea. It's called forced perspective.
Yeah.
And any artist that does any kind of landscape or any kind of creation where they want that illusion of depth, they do that.
Yeah.
Trains and things does that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Exactly that. Ron's Trains and Things. He did a video on forced perspective. It's probably a couple of months ago, but yeah, no, it was a good video to watch.
Right, it was a good one too.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do, but it really does. It's kind of like putting in a backdrop. It really does give you that sense of depth without having any depth. Especially on a shelf layout. A little tougher to do on a shelf layout. You have to be a little more careful about what you actually show of a smaller building.
Yeah.
And then you also, if you're using a backdrop, you also have to keep that in mind. Is the backdrop a backdrop of distance, or is it a backdrop that's up close? If it's up close, then it's hard to do a forced perspective, because if you've got buildings or something that is, a cow or something like that on the backdrop, you can't really put in a little N-scale building next to an HO scale cow and make it look right.
Yeah.
It's going to look like the cows are taking over.
Yeah, the other thing as well that I've seen, in regards to putting things in the backdrops to give you some sort of perspective is I've seen people use, cutouts of mirrors to kind of extend the road, and, so if they get the road to curve around and then go flush and sit flat against the backdrop with a mirror, then, the reflection obviously gives that perspective of the road continuing on further into the backdrop.
Yeah.
And then you just hide.
We actually did achieve that with the Novocastrian layout in our container terminal. I'm not sure if it's in any of the photos I've sent you, but you just reminded me of it. We did put a giant mirror up on it, so if you look straight down the terminal, it looks longer than it actually is. It looks twice as long, basically. And it looks great when you've got a train backing into it, because it looks like you've got two trains backing up to each other.
Yeah, mirrors can work really well. I saw that in the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. They did that in a street scene, and man, it looked like the scene went on forever. It was very good use of the mirror. I've also seen them used where you can't see directly into the mirror as far as, straight on. They always angle it a little bit, so it gives you that depth without being able to see yourself, if you were at that level.
Oh, that's a bad photo. Sorry, Shannon. I thought that one had more in it.
Okay. I'll go to the next photo. Oh, that's a nice photo.
Yeah, that photo there, that's Adrian Gunsberg's Bunbury layout. That's a station called Picton, just outside of Bunbury. And that's his Australian set. The Australian was a train that ran from Perth to Bunbury. It was an express sort of passenger train. And it was made, I think it was post-war era. Oh, this is my station. I built this station. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, look, and it's
My
got some
friend
static
made
grass.
the tunnels, and yeah, there's some static grass there as well. Yep.
Yeah, actually, side note, this is the real reason why Heath wants a static grass applicator. So I can put some on his dome.
I hadn't thought of that. That might work.
So, if anyone's wondering why Heath is walking around with a green head, now you know.
So just a quick little plug as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We've got 27 people watching and only 11 likes. Come on, guys. Start smashing that like button. Also, don't forget, merchandise.
What, you don't like us?
Merchandise. It's in the links in the description down below. So, and of course, keychains, etc., and so on. Now, this photo here, Shannon's just thrown up, is what I was talking about before. If you look at the rock faces there, they were just plaster thrown straight onto foam. There's no plaster cloth under there or anything like that. They're just plaster. There's only plaster cloth on the top where it's smoother, where the road and the grass is, and the trees. But on the side, no plaster cloth. That's just foam.
Is it just me, or does the part of the
Daniel
mountain
Banks
just to
brings
the
up an
right of the
interesting
tunnel
point.
look a little bit like Steve?
Sorry, two people were talking at the same time there.
Tunnel looks like Steve. What?
Yeah, the part of the mountain just to the right of that tunnel, did that look a little bit like Steve?
It's probably just the colour, because we were experimenting. We sprayed it with
That's scary.
with an airbrush, and we were experimenting with the colours because we weren't sure what the colours were for what we were trying to achieve. Because this is a layout that's not based on anywhere in particular, but it was based on Australian practices. So we wanted to get that Australian look, but we didn't really have anything to copy. So we were just sort of making it up as we go.
I had to get one in, Steve.
Hey, can we back up for a minute to... Oh, that's okay. That's fine. No, Daniel Banks brought up, we'll go back to the static grass applicators. He says that the ones that you make are underpowered. Does anybody have any experience with that? Because mine worked fine. I made a one from Harbor Freight for $8 out of a fly swatter.
No, it's
and it worked really good.
It's not that they're underpowered.
I haven't used it much, but when I tested it, it worked fine.
Yeah, no, mine works fine as well. Like, if you do get the proper ones, I guess they do run at a higher voltage, but we're only talking... Actually, no, that is a fair bit of voltage. We're talking 10,000 volts difference. But, but 25,000 volts versus 35,000 volts, there's not that much. All it really does is, is you're just creating a larger, what's it called? A larger static field, in the air. And even then, it also results in amperage as well. So, the $8 ones, for what they're worth, they work just fine as long as you make them properly. If you do decide to get a proper one, I do know some of them go for about $80, $90. But, again, that's personal choice. It's up to you which way you want to go about it. I know personally, I went with the $8 route, and it did me just fine.
Yeah.
Well, and what batteries does that take to run?
Mine takes AA's, 2 of them.
Mine takes, I think it's 3 Ds.
Yeah,
mine takes 2 or 3 Ds, I think.
Yeah, mine runs on 3 volts. Mine runs on 3 volts, and it powers it up to 22,000. I swear my computer...
Another thing you can use besides static grass is some people use sculpt-a-mold. I've got some sculpt-a-mold, and it comes in great for certain places. The problem I had with Sculpt Mold was it takes the paint. It takes paint different than regular plaster, whether you're doing it, mixing it with it, or whether you're painting it afterwards. The paint is not the same on those two textures, and it may just be the texture that causes that, or it may be the stuff that's in Sculpt Mold that causes that. But I've noticed that in some places it's fine for that to happen, some places not so good. But I've used it mainly to fill in places that I needed to fill in, and I didn't want to get the regular plaster out. The other thing I use is fusion fiber, which I love this stuff. I'll put a link up what I'm talking about. This is the place I get it from, Scenery Made Easy. But if you scroll down on that first page, it's there, and it's a cotton and cellulose base with a glue in it. It's not plaster, it's a glue, and I'll mix it with color, similar to what my base color is on the mountain, and I'm putting it over the top of it, so it gives me a real nice thin dirt layer look, that I then put my ground colors on, whether it's vegetation or just the ground, the fine ground foam, which I do a lot of that, and I'll do a couple of different colors of that, and it gives me that good general dirt look without using actual dirt. That would also be something I could do, but I'd rather not use the dirt. And it sticks to that, and I don't have to put any extra spray over the top of it. Now I can, and then the other thing I like about it is it stays water soluble. So if you have to change something, you just take the squirt bottle and you wet it down real good, and it'll scrape right off. Even if it's dry, you can take a little spatula or something and scrape it off of whatever you've put it on. I had to change a tunnel portal. I had to move one over that I had already used this stuff to actually mount the tunnel portal. So I just took a chisel in behind the tunnel portal and started scraping, and I scraped it off dry. It comes off kind of like paper mache. And then I just took the tunnel portal and ran it under some water and wiped the rest of the fusion fiber off of it, and it was ready to use again. So it's a great product. I bought a big bag like you see on that page at a train show a couple of years ago, and I probably still have 3/4 of it after how much I've used. I forgot how many square feet it says it covers, but it covers quite a bit. But they say you can build, small hills and stuff like that, which you probably could. I wouldn't use it for that. I would do a bigger base, whether it's foam or wood or something like that, and then put this on top of that. And it gives a good look. It's a good ground look, but it stays where you can reuse it if you need to. So I like that part. The only downside is it's about a 24-hour dry period. Which hadn't been a problem for me, but that's the only downside I can see to it.
These photos that Shannon's been putting up of this layout, this was at an exhibition a couple of years ago of part of Greg Aitken's Ben Cubbin layout. This is Ben Cubbin, the main station yard. And an interesting feature about his trees is his gum trees, which you see in the background of a lot of these photos, are actually sedum flowers. He grows sedum flowers, dries them, paints them green, puts a little bit of flock and foliage on them, and he's got some ready to go beautiful gum trees. So you can see that in the background of some of these shots. And things like the telegraph poles you can see in the foreground there were all 3D printed. This is back at the Novocastrian layout again. We've just started adding lights to it. We been playing around with doing some night scenes. Oh, we put some great night scenes into this layout. It's fantastic. It was great fun having night running sessions. I tried to include a lot of photos where I've put in like a force perspective that makes it look a bit more realistic. A lot of these photos, they're angled in a certain way to try and make them, yeah, make you feel like you're actually there watching the real film. This is the layout that I was talking about purchasing, which is the Bridgetown layout. That was at the exhibition back in 2007. I only ever had one exhibition.
Is this the one that you're trying to acquire? Just smiling.
Correct, Shannon. This is us having more night running sessions.
So has anyone else got any more questions regarding scenery?
Well, I was going to type it into Roy, but Roy asked me about the fusion fiber, if I've ever taken any unused fusion fiber and put it in the refrigerator until I needed it. No, I don't need to do that if it's unused. I think he meant probably used, some that I had already put paint in. No, I haven't, because I keep it in very small quantities when I use it, because it goes such a long way that I maybe a size a little bit bigger than a coffee cup container is all I mix up at a time. It's real easy and quick to mix up, so I don't make a whole bunch and then have to store it. I'll use it all before I finish, and it stays wet long enough that I can do that. So even if it's an hour later, I can leave it in a container for an hour and come back and still spread it on without adding any more water to it.
The layout
in question.
Sorry?
I hope that answers Roy's question.
Now, the reason why I asked Shannon to stop on this photo, this is how we did our river on the Novocastrian layout. The Novocastrian layout was basically plywood planes, because it was designed to be taken to exhibitions, which unfortunately it's never done, as far as I'm aware. Now, another note I should probably point out is all these photos were taken over 4 years ago when I used to live over in Newcastle, so I don't anymore now, so I don't get to see it very often, but that was just how we were constructing our river. We actually ended up putting lots of foam underneath it and building it downwards rather than, it's like a reverse mountain. Instead of building the mountain up, we built it down, so we had this nice little riverbed. And that's Roy. That's Roy visiting the club layout. This is my friend's York layout. The station building was scratch built. And that was that same scene earlier from the Novocastrian layout where my friend was working in the background there. That's got a little bit more scenery to it now. That's our loco depot, which we completely gave a 180 to. So the shed is now where the locos are, and the locos are now where the shed is.
Oh, this is a nice one. There's some nice scenery in there.
That's a brass. It's the Swan Dew layout again.
Yeah, we're talking about all this around the loco. We're not talking about the loco.
Sorry?
We're talking about everything around the loco.
I know.
Anyway,
and there's that river scene again, but with more scenery on it. That's Magumba Bridge.
Some of these actually have really good scenes. Now, I'm just looking at the time. I know we're starting to run a little short on time. Ooh. There's an idea. Heath, your next mission.
Now, there's an interesting thing we did with that floor. That floor was done with masking tape. So we could get the squares.
Mm. Actually, I'm just looking at chat.
And that cafe sign does flash.
Yeah. Actually, just looking at chat. Steve Anderson, Steve 87th piece SAP. He's asking about how to make large forests, especially a pine forest. Now, it might, from what I've seen, Steve. One thing I did see is I've seen someone, make the front of the forest, the part of the forest that you can see with the naked eye, and then behind it, they ended up using pretty much a foam step. So they kind of made a cliff. To give you an idea, they kind of made a cliff with some foam, put all the trees in front of it, and then on top of the foam, they added pretty much the tops of the trees and just covered it in, just tree matter on top.
Canopy.
Yeah, to essentially make a canopy.
Yeah.
So that's one way you can make, large forests. Otherwise, the only other way I can think of is planting a lot of trees.
Yeah. I think that's what Claude's doing at the moment, isn't he?
Yep. Planting a lot of trees.
A lot of trees.
It depends on your scale too, because I think you could get away with that with N scale, but if you're starting to go larger scales like O scale and that, you might have to go down the road of doing actual trees because you can probably see the difference.
Yeah, probably.
I would agree.
Yeah, there are a lot of places out there that make some really nice trees, but they're expensive. But they look like real trees. I mean, if you want, if you're doing a diorama or you're doing a scene where you want some really nice looking trees up close, that's what I would use those for. And then these less detailed trees in the background. And there are 2 or 3 different places that I've found that have really good trees, but like I say, they're pretty expensive. They're $6 to $7 a piece.
This layout here that you're starting to show now, I'm not sure if I included a photo, but on the backdrop, going back to backdrops, they actually painted the pumping station, which is, because the layout was so narrow, it was designed to fit inside an actual 1-to-1 scale carriage. So they had to, instead of being able to build the pumping station, which was right next to the railway line, they put it onto the backdrop and they painted it in a forced perspective sort of angle, so you can see it going off into the distance. It was really quite a spectacular paint job, that one. And that was done, basically the guy went up there, took a look at it, and then went home and painted it. No photos.
Yeah, I hate those kind of guys.
Yeah.
I can do that with some things. I can't do that with painting. That's why the painting of the scenery was bothering me so much. And then I got into doing it, and it's really, really easy, especially rocks and stuff, because you don't have to be perfect with them for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Buildings are different.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Just quickly, I'm just going to interrupt. It is now time. Normally around this time we'd be voting on our next topic, but what I'm going to decide instead is how many people do we have in chat at the moment? Can anyone tell me?
Looks like 21.
Okay, for the 21 people that are in chat right now, I want you to go into the description of this video right now, click on our email, have an email ready to go, and send us 3 topics that you want us to talk about. I want everyone who's in chat right now to send us 3 topics. So then that way next week we can vote on, we can start voting again on which topics we want to talk about. I want you guys to do that right now. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Whilst we do that, Steve, do you want to remind
Shannon,
me?
you're so demanding.
Demanding? I'm not demanding.
Really?
I'm unemployed, but I'm not demanding.
You said I want this done now.
Heath?
You're very demanding.
Heath, you say you've already sent 3 topics. Are those the only 3 ideas you ever had?
Oh, now he's getting into
Ooh.
Come on, Heath. I know you can send us more.
Fired.
I wanted too, before we get off, I'm going to send you this. I'm going to shoot you this link on the chat. I was looking at this last night. I saved this and didn't even realize I had saved it. And I went back in and looked. And this place has some really nice ideas for lighting your layout, whether it's cars, especially the cars. I love the way they've got their pickups done and stuff. But also lighting buildings and that sort of thing on the layout. And you might take a look at it when you get a chance. I've not bought anything from these people, but all the way through their website, they ask you to, send questions in if you have them. So they sound like they're willing to try and solve any kind of lighting problem you might have. And I just wanted to throw that out there since it was a scenery thing, and I had forgot I had them and hadn't heard of them before, and I don't know where I even picked the link up at, but I went looking at it last night, and I'll probably be using some of their stuff. Carry on.
Carry on.
Yeah, no, we're just picking on Heath at the moment, me and Jason are. Oh. So anyway, hey Steve, so do you want to tell everyone how they can get a hold of the key rings? Steve?
Yeah, back on track moderators at gmail.com. What? I did. Shannon.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, email us at backontrackmoderators at gmail.com. Okay. I must be a delay. $5 for steel, what was it? $20 for the aluminum that gets you in the special contest.
Special.
Yeah, hopefully we sell a few of those and then we can do something
Special contest, yeah. Haven't made the details out on that yet.
Well, so far the pool's only got what, $20 in it?
Actually, we've only sold 1 aluminum.
Mm.
Yeah, I think Steve, you're the only one too.
Didn't Jason the Train Freak buy an aluminum one?
Yeah, Jason bought one, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, maybe Jason got the aluminum. I forget. Somebody bought one aluminum.
You're not keeping this as
Oh yeah, Heath says he likes his.
Surely there's a record somewhere, Steve.
I sound digital. Oh, that's.
We'll blame it on Shannon.
Don't blame me.
I sound digital. Okay. It's probably Shannon's fault.
Now, boys, don't talk about who's got the bigger one.
Yeah. Seriously, boys?
Yeah. I thought, yeah, Steve, I thought you got the aluminum one.
This is our container terminal, that one. You go back one, Shannon. At the far end there, at the end of that container stack, that's where we put the mirror. So it makes the whole thing look longer.
Steve 87, here's that link again.
Oh, Jason, you got aluminum too. Okay. I forget.
Okay, so far we've got Steve
I hope you're keeping records.
confirming he sent more emails. Ooh, C3801.
How do you?
Yep, that's my 3801, and my 3 Garretts, one of which I sold.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Somebody actually wants to talk to you.
Yes, you did, Roy.
Okay, I'm gonna just change screens for a minute. Stay with me. Okay, guys, come on. Where are these emails? I'm looking at the emails now. 3 people have emailed me. Heath,
You're right, Alex.
Stephen, and Roy. Come on. Where's the other 17?
17 people.
Where's the other 17 emails?
You're right, Allie. He is demanding.
All right, guys. Is there anything else
A
you guys
Christmas drawing.
Yeah.
Jason wants a Christmas drawing.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to add in before we try and figure out what we're doing next week?
Nope.
Ali,
Nothing from me.
Steve.
Nope.
Okay. What should we talk about next week, anyway?
And we all go quiet.
Actually, how about next week we talk about what's it called? Company brands. You know, we compare Athearn versus Bachmann versus Atlas versus etc. etc. etc.
I don't know.
Vendors? Yeah. How about just vendors?
Yeah. That
Vendors.
should.
Yeah, we talked about doing that subject a while back.
Yeah, didn't that get quite heated between us 4? A little bit.
Yeah, your favorite vendors, why you like them, why you don't.
It depends, because as an Australian, I don't buy a lot of American stuff.
Yeah, but you buy stuff, right?
Yeah, but from Australian shops and producers.
Nothing wrong with that.
Jason, we're not going down.
None of the American guys are going to
be a 5-minute show. Okay, we'll do next week. We'll do vendors. We'll do vendors versus vendors.
Yeah, train food.
Anyway, I'm still waiting for these 17 emails to come through. So come on, people, send us those emails.
Steve 87 still likes the idea of train food. He's thinking with his stomach.
Well, that's the thing. I don't really know much about train food because I usually bring my own food onto the train, and they're usually a packet of chips.
I started to say if it's on the Amtrak now, government run, I don't know that I'd eat pet food.
Proya has tracking devices put into it.
I wouldn't eat train food now.
I wouldn't either. Not on Amtrak now. If I was on something like the Mountaineer or something like that, maybe. If it was a private train, then
yeah, that'd be
I would
different.
probably eat that.
I'll keep doing that.
But no Amtrak, yeah. I pack a lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the last photo. Okay, I guess I can exit that. Stop that.
Oh, you actually got through all of them. Well done.
Yeah. So I'll show my ugly mug again. There I am.
Oh,
Now where's my 17 emails? I want my 17 emails.
Yeah, he's
Hey,
not
Shannon.
demanding though, so
Look,
don't worry about that part.
Nightbot's even asking. Look, Nightbot, make sure
Shannon.
you send us an email with at least 3 topics.
I don't hear Shannon.
How do you not hear me?
There's a topic here from Jason saying Tsunami Tea versus Lockdown.
I don't hear anybody.
Yeah, the reason he put that up because me and Jason were discussing that the other day. So it'd be
Okay.
basically me and him talking.
Time to wrap it up.
Yeah. Jason, Dakotas are my forte as well. Plus repairs. Also, where'd Steve go? Hey Jason, you want to buy this?
Yeah.
Brand new. Oh, let's see.
Hang on, here he comes. He's coming back.
Yeah.
Stop talking about him.
You probably want to get a gun to shoot Shannon with.
All right. Anyway, guys, thanks again for another show. Thanks for joining us. Oh, I got another email. That's 4 emails.
Yeah.
So I got Sean McGee, Ron Hardwick, Stephen Anderson, and Heath.
It's Christmas in October.
Yep. Come on, 16 emails to go.
The usual suspects.
All right, guys. Thanks again. Make sure you send us those.
Thanks, everybody.
There we go.
What else? Don't forget Teesprings. What is it? Teesprings. Steve's already spoken about the key rings.
Keychains.
Yeah, the keychains. Traveling boxcars haven't moved for about a week and a half, but they should be moving next week. And yeah. And and don't forget, you got Cousin Vinny in about an hour. You got Humanity Junction hosting Sidetrack Sundays tomorrow. Thank you, Heath. I think we both thought of the same idea. And yeah, just remember everyone point to that timer for Heath because he refuses to see that timer. He's pretending it doesn't exist. And yeah.
I pointed the right way this time, didn't I?
Yep.
Yes, you did. Container map, we don't want to talk about beavers today. We'll leave that for Ron's show.
Or beans, trackside beans.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thanks again. I'm going to go wrangle my wife and my son because my son's keeping us
Yep,
awake.
I gotta go.
All right. Ending stream
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Have a good
Bye,
week.
guys.